Hi team, welcome back to Transaction Desk. Today we're going to be working in the basics and talking about checklists and tasks. If your dashboard does not look like mine, you may need to enter into your transaction dashboard simply by clicking on the house in the left toolbar. Once you're into the transaction dashboard, you're going to need a few tools. Simply unlock your padlock and scroll over to the green. From here, we're going to be talking about checklists and tasks. So let's go ahead and drag in the green checklist. It will drop in down below. Another useful tool to have is going to be the overview. This is going to give you important dates. Once you have these two, lock your padlock. Having checklists for each of the key types of transactions you create can save you a lot of time. The checklist provides you a list of things you need to do or documents you need to gather to complete a transaction. Checklist items can be mandatory or optional depending on how your broker has set up your office settings. Typically, you can create a checklist template and attach it to a transaction template. When any transaction is added using that template, the transaction automatically inherits the list of tasks and documents for the transaction. Alternatively, you can attach a checklist template directly to a transaction, either when you are creating the transaction or by editing later. Let's go ahead and work on this together. But before you begin, there are two ways to create a checklist. The first one is to create a new checklist, and the second is to create an existing checklist. If you already have a checklist that has some of the characteristics you want in your new checklist to have, it may be simpler to just copy an existing checklist and change it to meet the needs. Let's create the first checklist. From your dashboard, I want you to go ahead and click up on the upper right-hand corner into your profile and go into settings. Click on the checklist manager. From here, you're going to click on add. If you are not a managing broker or an assigned super user in your firm, your only option is going to be personal for ownership. However, if you're a super user or a managing broker or the principal broker of the office, you can click on Office and create templates for your office to have access to. The name box is going to be whatever name you'd like to name this checklist. For example, you could name this Residential Buyer Contract Checklist or Residential Listing Checklist. Once complete, click Save. From here in the checklist items, you're going to click on the Add Checklist Item. This Add Plus button can be found on the right of your screen. This is going to give you a window to create checklist items. From here, you can click on General Documents, Tasks, or things that are mandatory. We're going to say this is a task. This task that we are notifying for the loan application is going to be the RF656 3-day notification. If you are an assigned super user for your office, meaning you're the principal broker or somebody else assigned in the office like a managing broker, you will have the option to check off the mandatory box. Any mandatory checklist items will be found on the agent dashboard in their checklist, and it will be flagged with a red M. This signals that that task is mandatory by the office. If you have the task checkbox checked off, simply click on the task tab found on the top. From here, you're going to select a due date. If there is no due date, you can leave this blank. However, if it's related to a transaction date, which in this example it is, you can say that this is due on when? The binding agreement date, on the application date, the closing date, or any other. You can set a reminder for yourself for 15, 1 hour, 1 day, or 1 week before this is due. If you did not want this due on a specific date, you could say before. It will then prompt you how many days before this binding agreement date do you want this task to be completed. Well, for this example, this would actually be after the binding agreement date. Within 3 days, the buyer will make loan application and notify the seller. Once we're complete with this task, you can also click on the Assign tab. You can add default assignees to this task. We're going to leave this blank for now, but if you were to select yes, you can assign it to a particular contact in the transaction. In the notification sections, check Notify Assign Members via email if you need to notify the selected participant types when the task is assigned to them. In the notification section, check Notify Owner on status change if you need to receive a notification when the status of the assigned task changes. In the notification section, check Notify All Assigned Users to this task if you want every assigned user to receive a notification when the status of the assigned task changes. If the checklist item is a document, you can do the following. Click on Access tab on the top and use the Limit Access and Contact Type drop-downs to select whether the document has limited access permissions, and if so, for which type of contacts, such as the buyer or the sellers. To add the buyer, click the plus button and they will drop below. If you're adding a seller, the same will apply. If you accidentally add somebody in that needs to be removed, you can click on the trash can. When complete, click Save. You can repeat steps to create all of the items in the checklist. And when you have finished creating the checklist, click Update. Once you have added in your checklist items, you can place them in any order. So if you accidentally entered them out of order, simply click on the left side of each of the tasks and you can scroll and drag them into the order that you'd like to place them in. In my case, I've got email the contract, do the 3-day notification, which is the loan application. The 14-day notification is going to be your appraisal order, hazard insurance has been secured, and the buyer's intent to proceed has been provided to the seller. We want to make sure we order the appraisal. Scheduling the home inspection will typically follow 1 day after the binding agreement date. And then we also want to ensure that we schedule the final walk, transfer the utilities, and if we're ordering a home warranty, we want to make sure that also gets done early on so the invoices can be sent to the closers. When complete, click Update. Once you have your checklist set up, you can go back into your transaction. From here, you can come over to the right toolbar and go into Checklist. From here, you're going to click on Add for Add Checklist. You can add a checklist in whole or a checklist item individually. Let's add in the checklist we just created. Simply click the radial button and click Apply. From here, your checklist will now expand. As you can see, we have some documents that are going to be added in that would be for the contract documents. And then any notification that's been applied would also be here. Earnest money deposits, any amendments that need to go through, etc., all the way until the day the buyer closes. If there's an item that's accidentally missed, you can click Add Item and add a checklist item individually. This looks exactly like where you were in your settings setup. You can click on Task, give it a name, assign the task to a date, and if there were documents, you can grant the documents as well. When complete, make sure you click Save. If you were to have added in multiple checklists, you can see them in your rolling scroll bar. Simply click on the radial button with the up or down arrow to shrink or expand your checklist. Let's say this checklist, we wanted to have a reminder of a task. This is just a calendar reminder that the contract needed to be emailed to the closer and the lender on the binding agreement date. To complete this task and check it off, you can click here. This will give you a checkered flag saying the item is complete. And notice your bar here on the top is going to continue to move towards 100%. Now notice this next one is a document. The document needs to be attached. Let's go ahead and attach a document. If you were to click on the Attach button, you're going to see your documents here. These documents are the ones that are found in the transaction. You can also open up the transaction folders here if you needed to pull from another folder. Otherwise, your inbox folder here is your catch-all. If you had that document in your email and you sent it to your email for transaction desk, it would drop to this folder here. You can also upload straight from the device. Simply click, drag and drop. Once the document has been attached, it will be submitted for your broker's approval. Once the broker approves, you too will get a checkered flag. If at any point in time you needed to make changes, you can change them here in your menu. If you are back on your transaction dashboard, you can see your checklist items here. If at any point in time you need to complete your tasks, you can click from your dashboard as well to get your checkered flag. Remember when I stated that the broker can make certain things mandatory? Well, they'll be flagged with a red M, as you can see here in your checklist. If you were on your main dashboard and you had the tasks widget pulled into your dashboard, you would also see them identified here with that red M, meaning that is required. If you click on this item, you can see the task here, when it was due, and who it's assigned with. Once the document has been added in, the task will remove from the taskbar. You can see the properties and edit from here as well. From your agent dashboard, if you wanted to also see the full running list, you can click on Go to Tasks, or on the left toolbar, you can simply click on Tasks. It will take you to all of your tasks in one place, where you can select and check them off. Again, you can do the same thing as your shortcut widget from your main agent dashboard. Thank you guys for joining me today to discuss checklists and tasks. If you have any questions, let me know, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.